So you have people who are fleeing from Ukraine, fleeing the conflict, and a lot of people are going to Poland, for example, as refugees. And it turns out that the racism that I just showed you in that clip, where the news anchors are basically saying like, yeah, you know, Ukrainian refugees, these are white people. They have blonde hair, blue eyes. They look like us. Of course we should take them in. War is not good in Europe, but, you know, it's okay in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's normal there. If you thought it was just the news anchors, you got something else coming. I want to show you this. This is unbelievable. You have in Ukraine people, Africans, people of color trying to flee, who are being prevented from crossing over as refugees. This is unbelievable. Look at this post over here. The train to Poland got here. I and 2 other Africans entered first. A few minutes later, the police came in and dragged us down from our cabin. Only Ukrainians are allowed. And then there's videos of this as well, right? There's videos. Someone posted this, the official visuals of Ukrainians blocking Africans from getting on trains. So again, these are trains that are leaving Ukraine because of the war. There's a war, and people are trying to get away, and they're segregating the Africans, black people, people of color, and throwing them off the train or preventing them from getting on the train. I mean, you cannot make this depravity up. Here's some more. Africans taking shelter after being left stranded, waiting for safe harbor to asylum. I mean, this is sickening, honestly. This is unbelievable. Even during wartime, they are treating people like this. Foreigners are treated like that. You know, these people are mostly students. You know, they are treating them like subhuman. You know, it's really just pure racism, what they're doing to them. And here's an article from Al Jazeera, the Nigerian students caught in the Russia-Ukraine war. Some students have managed to cross the border into Poland. Yeah, because that's not the norm. It's only some of them who've been able to get over. Okay, and they say over here, others have had even less luck. Okay, and this is a quote from someone from Samuel. He said, they are not officials, police, or military. They are normal citizens who stopped us Africans from driving to the border. They let Ukrainians pass through, but not us. I am now walking to the border. I have no other option. I don't know how much further the border is. They even took our money. Do you see that? They even took our money. They robbed them. It is like they are not human beings, George said, adding that he could no longer talk on the phone because his hands were freezing in the sub-zero temperature. I mean, this is disgusting. This is really disgusting. Here's another post on Twitter. The caption says, images of Poland's racist treatment. Poland announced that it accepted those who left Ukraine, but African students studying in Ukraine are not accepted to Poland. Polish border guards reportedly threatened to open fire on African students.
We don't have arms. We are students. We are students. We are students.
They're screaming, we are students, if you can hear that. I don't know how loud the volume is. I mean, this is ridiculous because what the hell does their profession have to do with it? When you're escaping a war zone, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or a plumber or a student or a teacher. It's a fucking war zone. You get out of there. What difference does it make that they're students or not? The fact that they're being forced to explain themselves, fleeing a fucking war zone. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. This is so disgusting. This is so disgusting. I don't know if you can hear anything. I can't hear it.
Dr. Akintola
Here we
Onilola is trying to flee Ukraine's capital, Kyiv.
So this is what the road is like. It's kind of empty.
Like thousands of other Africans who went to Ukraine for their studies, she's now stranded amid a Russian military invasion.
Just all of us are just trying to do what we can to get out of here.
Cities under siege across Ukraine are home to tens of thousands of African students studying medicine, engineering, and military affairs. What was seen as a cheaper alternative to Western Europe and the United States has now become a war zone. Russian tanks, planes, and ships on Thursday launched the biggest European invasion of another nation since World War II. This is Dnipro in Ukraine's east, home to Ghanaian medical student Nana Efa Hockman.
For now, I don't know. The only option we have is...
Here's from Business Insider. African students fleeing the Russian invasion say they have been prevented from crossing to Poland due to a Ukrainians first policy. Okay, so reports are emerging of African students trapped in Ukraine who say they're being discriminated against as they try to flee amid Russia's invasion. Black people are allegedly being prevented from boarding trains and buses taking people to the borders, and some are not being permitted to cross into other countries, according to sources speaking to Insider and social media reports. And as the other report just now mentioned, there are thousands of African students in Ukraine studying medicine. Corinne Sky, a student in Ukraine who helped coordinate escape routes for hundreds of African students trapped in the country, told Insider that some have struggled to get on buses heading to the border. Some people have gone to get buses, but they're not allowing black people basically onto the buses. They're prioritizing Ukrainians. That's what they say. One African student who reached the Ukraine-Poland border wrote on Twitter that Ukrainian police and army were refusing to let Africans cross. Right, I showed you this video just now. It's the same one. And when they took NZ off the train, right? Yeah, and this is really just scandalous, right? Here's a BBC reporter. Okay, she says a Nigerian medical student at Poland-Ukraine border, Medika Shehini, told me that she has been waiting 7 hours to cross. She says border guards are stopping black people and sending them to the back of the queue, saying they have to let Ukrainians through first. This is really, this is so disgusting. Black individuals are not the only ones feeling discriminated against, as reports have emerged about Indian students in Ukraine facing similar issues at the border with Poland. We've been standing here in the open since midnight. It's 8:30 now. The temperature has dropped -5 degrees Celsius at the Ukrainian checkpost is not letting us through. Other foreigners are allowed to leave. An Indian student said. Excuse me, I was reading too fast. So this really just goes to prove the point that you have an inherently racist policy. They're saying, oh, it's Ukrainians first, but it's obviously whites first. It is. It's just impossible to check. To see this and draw any other conclusion from this. This is really messed up, and it's so in line with what I was telling you just now about the racist news anchors, right? This is what's so incredible about this Ukraine crisis. It's really exposed a lot of hypocrisy with a lot of people and a lot of nations, right? It's really brought out people's true colors. No pun intended, right? You see how they're treating people of color. You see how they're treating black people. You see how they're saying it's okay for Arabs and Muslims to be bombed, but not Ukraine. This is disgusting. I've never heard of a policy where it's like, oh, this nation first. When refugees are fleeing the same war zone, the bombs don't care what nationality you are. The bombs don't care what color you are. If you're fleeing the same bloody war zone, then you flee. There's no priority here. This is absolutely insane. And it's so disgusting. And it doesn't stop here. I've still got more racist things to show you which are emerging from Ukraine. It's really horrifying. Now, people are saying that this is not Ukraine's fault. They're saying that it's Poland's fault because it's the Polish who are saying Ukrainians first, right? As we said, a lot of people in Ukraine are fleeing into neighboring Poland. Yeah, but I just read to you several accounts of black or people of color students in Ukraine who were robbed, one of them said, and stopped from driving by Ukrainians who were not even authorities, who were not police, not army, nothing. So this is a problem in both countries. It's not just, oh, the Polish are being mean, like as if Ukraine doesn't have a racism problem. Are you really going to sit there and tell me that there's no racism problem in Ukraine? Man, the news anchors, the Western hosts are straight up racist on TV. Of course there's a racism problem here. And this really speaks to the whole neo-Nazi and racist policies that they have in Ukraine, because they keep telling you, oh, it's a myth. This Azov battalion, C-14, these groups are a fringe. They don't account for anything. They don't represent Ukrainians. Of course, you can't say this group represents all Ukrainians, but you're not going to come here and seriously tell me there isn't a racism problem here. You cannot tell me that. Look at the videos. Look at the people being blocked from fleeing a war zone because they're black. How do you explain that? Is that not racism? I've never heard of such a thing. I've never heard of such a thing. You know, you're fleeing a war zone and people are stopping you because of the color of your skin. I mean, this is just, it's like a new level of racism, you know? They always find ways to do shit. It's incredible. It's incredible. I've never heard of that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look, man, let's be clear. I'm not speaking for Ukrainians or Polish or Poles. We're not going to sit here and say that there's only racism in Ukraine and Poland and everyone there is a racist. No, of course not. Every country in the world has issues with racism, unfortunately. But this is really widespread. I mean, how can you justify this stuff? How can you justify this? And it's not just about black people. It's about people of color in general. You saw an Indian student was stopped, and also against Muslims. And I'll get to that in a second with the Ukrainian National Guard. Seriously, like everything, it just keeps. One atrocity tops the next. It's just, going on and on. My goodness. My goodness.